Welcome back to Little Birdie. You can find us on Twitter at LittleBirdiePod or www.littlebirdie.pod.com. This shows a unique look into the world of racing and sports from the view of a pro punter and pro punters. This week's show, guys, we've got Nick Tedeschi in the studio finally. We're going to look at round one NRL, 4 key matchups he wants to look at. We've got the AFL and Tinder Pro Cam Dean. We're going to look at some Corona action and any angles that might have looking at the AFL season. Big Daddy joins us again off a red-hot performance at the Arnold Palmer, joined by his brother, who again affected by the coronavirus, Marcus Fraser, a pro on the Asian Tour. He's on the show. We've got Damien Oliver, the greatest of all time, joins us to go over his big ride in the All-Star Mile. We've got the boys from NZ Scooty, maybe the biggest punters club in the world.
Boys get paid, the movement.
We've got the founder, the boss, the big dog, Luke Kemi's on. He's going to run us through what they actually do and what, if anyone wants to get involved, they can. Then we're going to have Mark Roden, who's going to come on and cover off Sydney, and we'll finish with the Snowman, in the know with the snow. He's pretty up and about, isn't he?
He's more than up and about. Was off the map Wild Planet, 270 into 210, and he's been peacocking all week. So
he's been
can't wait to have him.
Texting me since Tuesday with what he wants to do on the show today. He's got two plays for us. One of them, big odds. Boys, how are we?
You can smell it in the air. It's round one NRL time. Tina Turner time. I'm your host, Scoot, joined by Dicko. But the big man is in the building. Macho Man, top rope, Tedeschi. He's here. That's NRL week one. You must be pumped, big fella.
Well, it's hard to see what's more exciting today, the NRL round one or in the studio with you boys. Doesn't get any better than this, does it?
And joined by our AFL expert, Cam Dean, and Tinder extraordinaire.
It's great to be back. I'm glad to be asked back.
How are you swiping?
I'm not swiping. I think that's a myth.
There's a bit of coronavirus, so I hope you're wiping something. Okay, Nick, let's get into it. The big story this week is the...
Could you make this up?
What's
like
that?
If you run the Bulldogs, Nick, would you take the Bulldogs back to Coffs Harbour in the pre-season?
I'll tell you what, going to the mid-north coast, probably not an ideal situation, but...
Those of us old enough to remember and from the first state, New South Wales, will remember that the Bulldogs got themselves into a lot of trouble back in the day.
A lot of trouble, and at least they've handled this one a little bit better than the club has.
I think Port Macquarie's just put itself on the map as a schoolies destination. It's doing a fair bit up there. So, looking at the scandal matches in general, it's we've got it in play now at the moment, but you guys, you've probably seen one or two or a million scandals in your life. From a betting perspective, how do you approach it? Which is the best strategy?
You're talking about coronavirus scandals or the
Let's kick off with the crisis at Port Macquarie with Canterbury. How are Canterbury going to react to this?
Yeah, so what I usually think is the first game into it, they tend to kind of batten down the hatches. They all fire up, we'll gather around each other, get into it. You saw it with the Storm probably extended that longer when they got kicked out of the comp, but you often see a
bit like when a coach gets sacked the next week.
The big bounce back is like, all right, we're up, but that can't be sustained. And at the end of the day, Canterbury have a talent deficit as big as any in the competition, and they've lost probably their two most dynamic players. So, look, they've got a rivalry game. Round one.
On and off the field.
On and off the field. On and off the field, exactly. They've got a big round one rivalry game against that team they probably hate the most. I can see them getting up for this, but it's going to wear pretty thin. I'd be pretty keen to get on the under-season win total for the Dogs.
So the Dogs are plus 10.5 with Top Sport. Gamble responsibly. Are you interested at all in wagering on this game, or does this controversy, as Rabs would call it, does it make this game just unbettable?
I was super keen on it for a couple of reasons. Big underdogs in the first round of the year, 20 and 10 against the spread since 2008, getting more than 6 points. 9 interstate teams getting 4 more in round one, 17 and 7 against the spread. And the Dogs are really good underdogs. They've covered 23 of 35, getting 6.5 or more. But that's kind of reduced the confidence. I'll be having a small bet on the Bulldogs plus. I think it's too big. I don't like Parramatta as big favourites. I think they're a bit of a lay team this year. But I won't be going nearly as hard as I was hoping to.
So just for the public record, who do you support?
I'm a Canterbury fan.
Oh, good. Yep. Just to clarify, because
I'm a Canterbury fan who's made plenty laying in the last few years.
Yeah, the next game we're going to look at, the Cows versus the Broncos. The Broncos had a little setback during the week with Jack Bird doing his knee. Bit of karma maybe for leaving the Sharkies. With Cows play on their brand new deck. Thoughts?
Look, I don't like the Broncos at all this year. They've covered just 6 of their last 15 away from Suncorp. No Jack Bird. Their team's in all sorts. Pretty keen on the Cows here.
$1.59 to $2.40 head to head, or you got -4 the Cows.
I'll be taking the -4. I think they can put a number on them. To be honest, it's I like the balance of the team this year. Scott Drinkwater at 5'8", Valentine Holmes comes in at fullback. They've finally got a spine. I think they'll go well. I think the Broncos are in all sorts. To be honest,
a little birdie told me that the money's been running hard for the Cowboys. In the other Friday night game, it looks at the line, the flat 10 there, Canberra Raiders versus Gold Coast Titans. It sounds like the new breed of punter likes the Raiders, but the old school boys like the Titans. Where do you sit on that one?
Oh, Titans for sure. I think they can win this off the stick, to be honest. Home underdogs of 8 or more points in the first round, going back to 2008, hit at 100%, 5-0 against the spread. Raiders have only covered 15 of 35 at home over the last 3. I think they're a little bit overrated by the market. I'll be on the Titans plus.
And then when we look at Saturday's game, the Newcastle Knights have been a team that you've been spruiking with the new coach and Ponga to full back. $1.45, $2.80 against the Warriors. We'll get Luke Chemis to tell us the racing segment, but 6.5 the line there on Saturday's match.
Yeah, we're all looking forward to his thoughts there. The Warriors plus 6.5.
Shelf.
The Warriors plus 6.5, I think, are the bet here, even though I'm very keen on the Knights. I think the Knights have to prove a bit. I think a new coach, new system, takes a little while to adapt. I think the Warriors plus 6.5. They have the Knights have covered just 7 of 21 against the Warriors. Full stop.
What about the Penny Panthers? Can they upset the Roosters?
I love them this week. My favourite angle in the first 4 weeks of the season. This is one for the punters out there. Home underdogs of 4 or more in the first 4 rounds of the year. 45 and 18 against the spread, going back to 2008. This angle is just money all the time. I'm going to go with Penrith plus 6, and I will happily take them off the stick.
There's been a bit of money for that. They're $1.85 with the plus 6.
It's
They won't jump plus 6. They'll jump 5.5, 4.5. This will come in under the converted try.
Once that top rope comes off the top turnbuckle, I'm sure, of course, there's going to be a big go for them. The one that is a bit funny for mine, and given there's a lot of people that are against South Sydney, the minus is starting to run hard. A little birdie told me that all the pros have started to back South Sydney at the minus, and Cronulla don't look like a strong side.
Yeah, there's been a few team changes that probably caused that. Bronson Xerri, the centre's not come up, so he won't be playing in the centres. William Kennedy's starting at fullback. Josh Morris was released this week, so he's been named. He's likely to play. There's every chance he doesn't play, so I think there's probably a bit of betting on the fact that he may not show up.
And then we'll finish with the Sea Eagles Storm. Scooty was pretty keen. He had a pretty intelligent angle that he got off a good source there for the Storm to be winning first up. Thoughts?
Yeah, love the Storm this week. Absolutely love them. They've won. They haven't lost a round 1 game for a long, long time. Average winning margin of 7 points. They've covered 8 of their last 12. They have covered 5 of their last 6 interstate when favoured by less than a try. I really like the Storm, and I'm going to have a little dip at Ryan Pappenhausen, about $34 for the Dalian medal this year. I think he's in for a massive year, so I expect him to get off to a big start.
So are there any particular bets you want to highlight, you want to stand out for the week for the punter at home?
Well, actually, just quickly while we're talking the Storm, I've already dabbled at $1.64 the Storm, and they've drifted to $1.72. Do I just keep charging through? Like, what do you do when a team heavily drifts against?
I look for the reason why,
but
I don't see any reason. The reason why is there's been a couple of big names who are expected to be out for the Seagulls who are in doubt, are playing. Yeah, Trebojevic, Fanua Blake, good players, tough up the middle, but I'm not changing my view on that. I'd be going hard at it again.
Oh, I like that. I really like that. Now, your best for the week?
Penrith plus 6.
Penrith plus 6 against Sydney Roosters. It's going to be a cracking game, that one. I think that's all the angles that I've got. Cam, is there any inside mail you've got on NRL or any pearls that you've learned?
It's interesting. I've been hearing a lot about the AFL playing behind closed doors. The easy joke, obviously, is
They already do
at the NRL. But I haven't heard anything. Have they discussed playing behind closed doors at the NRL? Or?
No. We're a different breed. We're immune to the coronavirus in rugby league.
Okay.
No, it hasn't been discussed on any serious level, but. Just having been in Melbourne the last couple of days, seemed to be much more of a freak out down in Melbourne than there is in Sydney at the moment.
And to be fair, there's been a fair bit of controversy this week, which has distracted the headlines probably, and the powers that be.
Now, a big buzzword that you dropped in the first couple of episodes was Pythagorean expectation. Run us through that. What does that mean?
So what that essentially kind of boils down to is finding a team's real win expectation. So I won't bore them with the maths on it, but what you're essentially doing is looking at for and against, points scored, points against, and boiling it down to what is actually the amount of games you should have won, and then differentiating that between what you actually did win. So were you and kind of putting the difference down to luck. Were you lucky? Were you unlucky? That's essentially what it boils down to.
So actual score versus expected score.
Yep.
That's simple. Okay, we've opened up the Hall of Fame with a couple of crackers. Howard Ratner was on debut, and then the Racing New South Wales Stewards was very well received from our followers. But this week, who's going to be in the Hall of Fame? Well, we could have a couple of people up at Port Macquarie jumping into the Hall of Fame. There could be the guys at Sky Thoroughbred Central who've decided to put a Women in Racing Godolphin special on air tonight at 9:30. So it's not really the show that you'd think it would be, but it's timely nonetheless. Well, it's worth tuning in to 528 on Sky Channel this week.
Wait.
But let's talk about the Hall of Fame.
Good on him for getting on the front foot, though, Scoot.
This week, I'm thinking after his stunning performance last week at the Arnold Palmer Invitational, Tyrrell Hatton gets in. Yeah, landed some big bets. Landed some big bets for the punters. So, look, let's bring this a bit closer to home. T. Hatton got the job done. Look, it was a pretty wild ride. Anyone who follows Tyrrell Hatton knows that he can fire up a bit, the young fella.
I'd only heard of him about sort of Wednesday last week.
And now he's a Hall of Famer.
Heavily invested.
Had a little bit on
after
it,
Thursday.
the 74s. Look, when you do the work, you find the angles. And I'm investing and actively watching our golf expert, Adam Big Daddy Fraser. And to do that, I needed to make some investments.
One of the best things I heard in his speech, he basically said that he wouldn't be right till Wednesday because the celebration was going to be that big in his hometown, now at Florida. I thought that was very worthy of Hall of Fame contention. And I've even noticed a couple of touts tipping him up for this week at the Players' Championship, but being on a bender for 3 days, I don't think it's the right prep for Sawgrass at all.
There's a reason why players don't win back-to-back because they go on benders like that.
Welcome to the Hall of Fame, Tyrrell Hatton.
A little more popular than last week?
Much more.
Get lucky. It's most eligible bachelor time in Melbourne. It's Cam Dean talking AFL.
Yeah, thanks, Scoot. Firstly, I just want to apologise because I was going to cover off the Brownlow and some angles on the Brownlow today, but had a debate with Dicko during the week, and he said we're not allowed to cover the Brownlow, the event that I've won the most money on in my career, best margin event. And he said it's because it's judged by small men who've never played the game. He doesn't care that you can make money on it. He just said no Brownlow chat.
That's not all I said. Small men who couldn't play the game.
Yeah.
Predominantly beaters.
Yeah.
Who we whinge and complain about the entirety of the season.
That's fair.
And yet we all sit around like lemmings at the end of it to let these people who are incapable of officiating it tell me who was the best player. Spell.
Have you never bet on something you don't like before?
No, but I didn't hear that. You didn't text me the bit that said you've won on it, the most you've won on it. So now that you've informed me that it's your most profitable market and you're our AFL expert,
Yeah.
indulge me just a little bit.
Well, yeah, I do love the Brownlow. I don't normally bet on the Brownlow this time of year too much, but I just sort of wanted to cover off a few things. Mid has won the Brownlow since 91-92. So back then it was two ruckmen that won it. Do you remember who they were, Dicko?
Jimmy Steins?
Jimmy Steins and Scotty Wind. But in recent times, one thing with the Brownlow, the winner has polled really well the year before. So they sort of, one thing you could say, they probably need to get some credits in the bank.
Yeah.
Prentice was probably the last real bolter.
When you say bolter, what do you mean by that?
He's come from nowhere.
He's got 40 to 1.
He wasn't good the year before, and he also wasn't liked during the season. So he won at big odds.
Chris Judd won at big odds at about $26.
Yeah, he did.
I know, because I laid him to lose a fortune of Alan Skipper's money. Sorry, Alco.
And it's not always won by the best player, which Dicko's touched on, but it's the player with the opportunity to get the most votes. So you get games won by teams and the percentage of votes they get for their individual teams. So, some players like Cripps are in for 40% of their own team's votes. So you're looking for those sort of players that will also win enough games to get the votes. So you're looking at Cripps Fife, Danger, Mitchell, Dusty. They're the players that can get to those levels. Or you're looking for the next player that will be able to get to that level, that can get to that 35%, 40% of that team's votes. So you look at that early in the season. If the guy's really dominating that team's votes, then they're winning enough games, bang, that's the time to strike. So
Max Gawn, a good smoky?
Again, he's a ruckman, so he can go really well, but he has to probably go better than any ruckman's gone for a long, long time.
So what are we doing?
At the moment, I'm just giving some angles. I said we'll update during the year, but we'll look at round by round and analyse then, and then say, okay, time to pull the trigger.
There's been a bit of money for Cripps, hasn't there, already?
No, well, he's $6. His favourite.
Are they going to make the 8?
Blue Vegas? Oh, they got some injuries early, so that's the worry.
So if they win, like, say, 2/3 of their games, doesn't that sort of put him at a pretty big disadvantage to poll?
It does, but he's the one player, because he's in for like 40% of their votes, he's actually polling and losing games as well. So he has that ability. He's so good.
He's an over-poller.
Yep.
I think Fife's over 75%.
Yep.
Just speaking about angles, coronavirus angles, I think there's people, joking how Gold Coast Suns and North Melbourne will improve with empty stadiums and things like that. On a serious note, from a betting perspective, if they do lock all the fans out, what's the angles? And not just AFL. Nicky, you can join the conversation here. Home ground advantage, does that nullify that? How do we work it out?
Yeah, well, it depends on what they do with the AFL with the sound. They may put some fake noise or something ridiculous.
They would do that.
But you would think that with no crowd, that it takes away some of that home ground advantage, because part of that home ground advantage is the noise of affirmation, and umpires are influenced by what the crowds are telling them to play holding the ball.
Getting back to the Brownlow medal and how irrelevant it is.
So yeah, I'd say it's definitely going to have an influence on home ground advantage. And then for me, then the other angles you're looking at is potentially this coronavirus, depending on how much it spirals out of control. There could be a shortened season, or could be some games not played. So then you're looking at either season wins, if you like it, the team's season wins under, you're getting an extra added bonus that games aren't played. Or even in your top 4, your top 8, teams that are a bigger price, it's a shorter season, so it's less, the volatility's there. So if they've got a good draw early, they could sneak into the 8 or sneak into the top 4. So there could be some angles around that sort of punting.
Do you think there's an angle in that it potentially could handicap some of the bigger Victorian clubs like the Hawks, who are dependent on poker machines? Given that if it continues to spiral out of control, it has been.
He's baiting me here.
I'm not sure where you're going here.
And there's less and less people able to go out and socialise.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, there's less money going through those poker machines, which fund some of the big football clubs. Then they've got to cut back. They've got to start, they're starting to use old Sharons. It could happen.
I think that could be something that affects them years down the track, but I'm not sure about this year's in terms of punting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd be looking at game totals actually in the NRL. I'll be looking about the over. I think there's a lot of energy gets sucked out of the stadium if there's kind of really smallish crowds, which some clubs have anyway.
Yeah.
But I think with no stadium, I think it's going to be more like a training run the way they approach the game, and I think I'd be looking to bet the overs whenever possible.
Wow, that is an absolute beauty from Top Rope.
Good angle, top rope.
Well, this segment of AFL was sponsored by Top Sport, the choice of smart bettors for over 25 years, so all odds. And please gamble responsibly. Welcome back to Little Birdie. We've got Big Daddy Adam Fraser and his more famous brother Marcus Fraser joining us on the show.
I like the more famous bit.
How are you, Big Daddy?
I'm good, Dicko. How are you, mate?
I'm good. I'm going a lot better than you are. You've had a pretty big week. How have you come through your knee op? We saw a little bit of a glimpse of it on social media with your sort of porn star pose there with the right arm just behind the head and the gentle sort of look at the camera.
I think I was more high on drugs than anything else, mate, when I took that shot.
Was that a selfie or did you get a bit of help with that?
I might have got a nurse to take it.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's great marketing. I think it's doing you all sorts of favours. We'll post that up on littlebirdie.com later for the listeners. It's one of Adam's best shots. Now, you got Rory beat last week. Great stuff at 5-1 there. And the head-to-head matchups, you hit 3 out of 4. You nailed the grass situation. How are we going to approach the Players' Championship?
Well, I'm not going to oppose Rory so much this week. He has, even though he won last year, he does struggle a little bit at Sawgrass. The last 3 years, he's averaged 71.63, which is not really that impressive. But I mean, Rory's in very good current form. The last 20 rounds he's played, he's averaging 68.15. So, I mean, that's incredible. That's super strong. His only weakness is getting off the tee at the moment, I think. When we saw that last week in the last round when he only hit about 25% of fairways, I think it was about 28 to be exact. So, in order to play well around those sort of tight driving courses at the moment, I think Rory's got to get the ball in play a little bit more. That's the only thing that's really holding him back. If the fairways are fairly lenient, I think Rory can just sort of contend pretty much every event if the fairways being hit are lenient towards him. So I'm going to stay out of Rory this week. I think there's some other good bets there this week. I like Patrick Cantlay to beat Sung Jae Im. Patrick's in very good form at the moment, and I think the best bet of the tournament is Tony Finau to beat Justin Rose in a match bet. Tony Finau's in great form. Justin Rose is out of form. I've got Tony at a 36% market edge to beat Justin Rose. I think that's the best bet of the tournament.
So that's currently $1.78. Tony Finau versus Justin Rose, 2.04. Topsport.com.au. Gamble responsibly.
Yeah, I've got Tony really short, mate. Really short to beat Justin Rose, and I've also got Patrick Cantlay short to beat Sung Jae Im. Not quite as short as what Tony is to beat Justin, but I just think Justin's out of form at the moment. I'll just get up here what he averages at Sawgrass. The last 3 years he's averaged 71.88. So I mean that's not if he plays to that average, he's probably going to miss the cut. He hasn't been in very good current form. The last 20 rounds he's not even close. He's averaging close to 71.5. So I don't think he's playing good enough to contend the tournament. I mean, players can always come out and prove you wrong. It's a golf tournament, but based on those statistics, I think when you compare him against Tony Finau is absolutely flying in current form. He's 69.25 the last 20 rounds he's played, and he's got a very good stroke average the last 3 years at Sawgrass. He's come off a good year the last 12 months. I just think he's just such a good bet against Justin Rose this week.
He's also $67 to win it outright, so I'll be having something on that. Big Daddy, anything else you want to cover off, or that you for the week?
Oh, look, I think the market has pretty much got onto Brooks Koepka now. Brooks Koepka's out of form. He does happen to play well at Sawgrass recently, but he is out of form. But the market has pretty much caught on to him, so I can't find a lot of value there. I think the market hasn't caught on to what I was talking about with Tony Finau and Justin Rose. I think there's a big gap there. So I think if you're placing any bets during the tournament, the feature hole at Sawgrass, as we know, is the 17th hole. It's an island green. There's a lot of water balls. There was 45 last year. I think they hit an all-time high in the last decade of about 93. So when you have a look at anywhere between 40 and 90 balls entering the water on the 17th, that sort of a quarter to a third of the field to half the field, sort of maybe possibly going in the water, depending on how strong the wind is. If it's blowing, we're definitely going to see a lot more water balls, and also up 18. So while they're playing, just wait until maybe they finish the 17th and 18th. Don't bet sort of around 13, 14, 15, 16. Just take your time and just wait until they play that 17th and 18th, because they average well over par. So we just want to make sure we secure some good odds.
Adam Scott goes well there at 28-1. Mark Leishman was runner-up at last weekend at 55-1, and the third player, Jason Day, also goes okay there. Might not have the form of the other guys at 66-1. Is there who'd be your pick out of those top three players?
Not Jason Day. He pulled out again last week. I don't know what's wrong with Jason. I don't think he's not in very good form. I'd be steering clear of Jason. Adam Scott's he's playing pretty good. And Mark Leishman, coming off a second last week, is in good form as well. So I think the pick out of those, Mark Leishman does struggle a little bit at Sawgrass. If it was my pick out of the Aussies, it'd be Adam Scott to have probably the better tournament.
Okay, we might save Leishman for the Masters. I think he's much better suited there. Now, moving on to Marcus. you're grounded from the Asian tour and you're shacked up at Adam's place.
No, he's actually at my place.
Oh, God.
He's moved in here, taken over the place, and he's struggling, the big fella. He's not mobile at the best of times, and he's definitely not mobile now, that's for sure.
So what's the plan with you with the coronavirus? How long are you on blocks for?
I think I'm a full-time nurse at the moment. I'm going to be for a while. Indian Open next week got cancelled. I think I was supposed to be in Thailand this week. It got cancelled, postponed, and then Bangladesh the following week after India's been postponed. So I think it's kind of snowballing, like the whole thing that's going on with it everywhere around the world. It's sort of affecting golf as well. So we're not really too sure when we're going to play again. So we're a bit up in the air.
How many rounds a week will you have to keep playing to keep your eye in?
I'll probably play once or twice a week, and just if I can hit balls sort of 2 or 3 days a week. On those days I'm not playing, as long as I keep the club in my hands and do a few things I've just got to stay on top of, I'll be fine. And it's actually, with footy season coming up, but it's not a bad time to be home watching the beloved Bombers. And but at some point you have to get back out to work as well. So we'll see where we can go to work.
Well, if you need a hitting partner, you've got my number.
We didn't get to do it in the last couple of weeks, but I reckon I'll be around a bit, mate. So we might have to head down to PK for a bash.
I'd love that. Now, speaking of, some of our listeners might be sort of similar to myself, young-ish blokes getting into the game of golf, starting to love the game of golf. They've worked their way into a single-figure handicap. What's a bit of gold that you could give to a person in a similar position to take their game to the next level?
Well, I think just like I said before, you got to keep. If you want to get better, you just got to keep a club in your hand. You got to be playing all the time, and I think the big thing is realising what your strengths are and your weaknesses. Make sure your strengths stay your strengths, but just chip away at those weaknesses to make sure they gradually improve as well. And that I think every player is so different in the way that they play the game. So I think that's the biggest thing, is understanding your own game and breaking it down. Making sure those strengths stay your strengths, because that's your scoring ability right there. And then those weaknesses, just make sure you keep on top of those bad habits and gradually improve them and try and get rid of them as bad habits.
Well, Jack and I will get booked in for a chipping lesson, and me especially there. I'm absolutely awful at it. But thanks, guys. Good luck on the men.
Dicko cannot chip at all.
Oh, well, I'm even worse.
No, listen. I have made proper progress out of bunkers. I am afraid chipping. If I can putt, I will putt. I get out the Texas wedge whenever I can. But Big Daddy, you gave me 4 lessons in 4 weeks. That was 4 years ago. You've dropped right off. I work my way into a single-figure handicap, and you're constantly brushing me. And I'm cheering the coronavirus because I'm finally going to get a Fraser that can still play. That's going to give me some insight and help my game.
Well, mate, Mark's has got a good short game. Maybe he can help you from taking 4 chip shots to get onto the green down to 2.
And let's not forget the Marcus Fraser Invitational there at Corowa a couple of years back. I didn't see you sink a putt from under 8 feet all week.
I'll give you one free bunker lesson. The best bunker lesson you can have?
Don't go in.
Avoid them.
I'm trying my ass off for that. Well, enjoy the week, guys. We'll chat next week for the Valspar Championship at the Snake Pit. Thanks, guys.
All right, see you, mate.
Thanks, guys. Ace. We've got Damien Oliver, one of the greatest of all time, and he's going to talk to us about his ride, Mr. Quickie, in the All-Star Mile. How you going, Ollie?
I'm well, thanks, guys.
Damien, Mr. Quickie's first up record's pretty impressive. Last preparation, he recorded his biggest ever figure first up over the mile in Mackay Diva. You jump on him for the first time. You have sat on him in 2 jump outs. How did he feel in both?
Yeah, he felt great. This is the first time I've ridden him this preparation, at all. So as you said, I've ridden him in the 2 trials and a piece of work last Tuesday morning. And to me, he feels like he's as well as he can be prepared for the race. I don't have anything to compare him from previous times sitting on him, but he seems in great condition, and he's moving well. His action and his fitness, I think everything has gone as smoothly as it could be to have him at his best for a first up run.
In those 2 jump outs, did you feel like he has enough sort of zip tactical speed early to use the good gate if you want to?
He's not a horse that possesses great early speed. He's not a brilliant beginner. Although it probably helps us to some degree, I'm not sure he can really make full use of the good gate to hold a forward position. And looking at him personally, I think he's probably a horse, and after course you don't want to rush too much early. I think it's important to have him in a position where he's comfortable so he can have his best possible finish.
What do you think about horses that are first up in these high-pressure Group 1 races? We saw Exceedance come unstuck last week. Is it a coup that you can pull off in a race like this?
Yeah, sorry, what was the one you said come unstuck last week?
Exceedance come unstuck last week, and it's sort of new ground, this All-Star Mile over 1,600 at Caulfield. Is it something that the camp can pull off, you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, every race is different. I mean, the Newmarket over history has proven a difficult race to win first up, although Red Quirk Warrior was able to do it. But he's a horse that's probably was capable of running a mile to 2,000 at times as well. So Exceedance, I think the race didn't really pan out that well for him, the position he landed, and he was just in an awkward spot. So it's difficult to tell if that was if it was the first up reason or the setup of the race too. I mean, Bivouac pretty much had control of the race the whole race, and he was just in the right position and really dominated the race. Getting back to Mr. Quickie, as you said, he's got a good first up record. He ran really well in the Mackay Diva first up. That was at Flemington, and you would think, although he's won at Caulfield and raced really well there, Flemington probably would be a more suitable track for him. But for my little experience on him, not riding in a race but in those trials and in his work, as I said, I feel he's as well prepared as he could be going into a race first up, and he obviously performs well fresh. So, this is obviously a really strong race. He's drawn well to get his chance, and I mean, we just got to see how the track's racing a little bit on the day. If Caulfield races like it did the last meeting there, where it was impossible to come from, anywhere back from, in a handy position at worst, he's probably going to find it difficult. But, if you can make up ground there, and it's a genuine one race, as we've seen with the favourite Alligator Blood, he's been able to get into a controlling position and really dictate terms in the races. If he gets that again there on Saturday, he's going to be hard to beat. But if he's pressured and there's a little bit more
tempo
and early pressure in the race and sustained pressure, then it brings the horses in the second half of the field into the race.
No worries. We've also got a very interesting runner, the Oaks winner in the Alistair Clark Stakes on Friday night, Miami Bound. Can she bounce back?
I'm hoping so. Her work was really good going into her first up run. She had every chance there, but she just didn't perform anywhere near what she's been training like or her best. So I haven't been on her since, but 1800 first up can be a difficult assignment at times. And she's never really, her form at Caulfield isn't as good as her form elsewhere. So we're hoping getting to Moonee Valley. I don't think she's raced there either, but certainly a track with a little bit more give. And if she can get back to anywhere near her best, she's going to be a chance. But we're just hoping that first up run was a glitch. As I said, she trained well going into that race. And if she can get back to her best, she's got to be a chance in that race for sure.
Thank you very much, Damien, for joining us. All the best on the weekend, and enjoy your surf. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, guys. All the best.
Thanks, guys. All-Star Mile, Jack, we've just had Oliver talk up Mr. Quickie. What do you think of that horse's chances? But maybe we've heard enough about Mr. Quickie. Who's the big dangers in the race, or who's the horse to beat from your perspective?
Look, Scooty, what I'll do is I'll do a quick little speed map over the wireless. I think Alligator Blood and Streets of Avalon from barriers 10 and 11, they're the speed. They're going to cross. I think with Streets of Avalon, this is going to be a properly run race, and Alligator Blood's going to have a bigger test than it had in the Guineas, and will be there to be beat. At the same time, I'm convinced that Alligator Blood has been set for this race. He improved in condition from a mounting up perspective in the Australian Guineas, like, remarkably. I reckon he's going to be spot on here to run a huge race. Melody Bell, I think, gets run of race from barrier 5. She sit just behind the good speed. Perfect run. I think Fierce Impact, Sosabon and Dalasan are all cast just from a speed map point of view in an even race. I'm happy to get rid of them. Harder Passance is a fascinating horse from barrier 1. It showed really good speed in a decent form race at Sandown, sort of set up for this. It could explode, but I'm happy to be against. I think Ollie is a big chance to cause a big upset here on Mr. Quickie. If he gets the back of a horse like Melody Bell or Blackheart Bart and gets a good toe into those good lanes there at Caulfield, provided Caulfield races somewhat evenly as opposed to the biased hellhole it was last meeting, the rail's out 6 is traditionally a very even rail position, and I'm playing it for a fair track, which I think you have to.
Yeah.
But I think Mr. Quickie each way is the most intelligent way to bet in this race, and that's why we had Damien Oliver on the show.
I sort of like Melody Bell from a setup point of view. I expect her to improve out of sight. And Colding was the other horse from the Wally Yard. I think Hugh Bowman's finally found some form, and I think those two are the probably safest ways to play. But yeah, I'd want to see the pattern, and it looks a really tricky race. Jack, looking at the rest of the Caulfield card, have you got a best somewhere out wide?
My best, Scooty, is in race number 4, Western Sun. You can currently get $6.50 at topsport.com.au. Gamble responsibly. I think it would be very responsible to have a fair big crack at this thing each way. Drawn 4, loses Michael Walker, gets Craig Williams. It can do whatever it wants here. It sat on speed at Sandown in a good race. Parody came out of that race and won really well at Flemington in the midweek meeting, which caused the track to be no good for the big meeting last week at Flemington. I think Western Sun brings a really nice profile to sort of improve, whereas some of these that are a bit exposed, like Palmy, thought of that was $3 out to $8 first up at Ballarat, was just friendless, and it was an absolute barrier trial. If it's firm late, I'll be quite scared. But there's a bunch of numbers in this race. Palmy's been up forever. It's a beautiful horse, but just from 8, where's it going to get to in the run? I think Western Sun's a really, really good bet each way.
Thought of that. I think they should be thinking about putting Linda back on. We saw how good she was in the Oakley Plate, and I think the horse just goes a lot better for Linda Meach.